What kinds of conversations did you have with members of the real estate industry and the lead up to this bill?
We spoke to representatives from Rebney, mostly just they asked for a meeting, and I was fine with meeting with them. And wanted to answer some of their questions. That was earlier in the session, I think maybe in February or March. It was after the bill was introduced, but well before the rent laws conversation was really heating up. And I think perhaps before they were really taking the Good Cause bill seriously, given that it was a new bill at the time. It was the only bill in the Housing Justice for All's 9-bill platform that has never been introduced in another form in the state legislature before. So I think that maybe it wasn't a really tense meeting. I remember speaking to them and asking what they thought of the bill, even though it might seem obvious. I was just curious, and they didn't really have much to say about it. I think they were more concerned about the threat to repeal deregulatory policies. Maybe they were more concerned about the changes to rent regulation. But I also met with some members from RSA on that note, property owners and people who represent property owners of rent regulated.
What were the topics you discussed?
The same, basically, talking about the prospect of changing the rent laws and listening to their perspective. Truthfully, while I always want to at least understand the opposition's perspective. Nothing that they shared with me surprised me. This is an issue that I just care deeply about and have. I guess been even before I became a legislator observing. So I felt that I was already familiar with what their interests were and what stance they would take.
Did you meet with Joe Strasberg from RSA, or is it just property owners here?
It was actually representatives from RSA. So
okay.
So they're probably property owners themselves, but yeah. And I actually can't remember if Joe was in the meeting. Yeah.
He had mentioned that he thought that a number of officials wouldn't take meetings with him. So that's why I was curious.
Oh yeah, no, it was definitely. I don't know for sure if Joe was personally in the meeting or not, but I'm sure that he would be able to confirm that it happened. We were willing to meet when they asked. Yeah. I encountered small property owners who had a very different perspective. Some of them shared concerns that I heard from the real estate lobby. And I was first of all, I was more willing to take those concerns seriously from these property owners who I could see were actually concerned about being able to afford to maintain their buildings. When people speak from their lived experience, it's much more compelling than billionaires LARPing as middle or working class New Yorkers.
Do you think the housing market should be a business commodity? And if not, do you have an alternative proposal?
I think that we have a responsibility as a society and as a government, as a state, to ensure that every person has basic shelter, accommodations, I should say, because I don't actually support the creation of, for example, additional homeless shelters. I prefer and advocate for the development of permanent housing for people who are currently displaced. But most fundamentally, I believe that housing is a human right. I believe that we have the resources collectively to ensure that everyone is housed. And from there, the question of, do I think that it should be a commodity? I think what's most, if there were a way for there to still be housing for profit, I guess, while guaranteeing that everyone has a place to live and can survive and thrive without fear of eviction, then it wouldn't necessarily matter to me if people who have disposable income want to live in a luxury apartment and pay the landlord, and the landlord wants to, and that I don't have a problem with that exchange necessarily. I don't know if I'm not certain practically how viable that's like a sort of, say, like social democratic model is in the US, because we've never seen it. I initially was concerned about the governor's response, given things that he himself said publicly, and some of the kind of threats that we heard, particularly over the last month. But I think that the governor wants to be on the right side of this, so to speak, and that I'm seeing him increasingly demonstrate that he cares about what advocates think and how they'll respond to the decisions he makes, and I think he recognizes that that at least advocates and most New Yorkers would support him signing this, and would be pretty upset if the governor didn't sign the bill and as a direct result rent regulation expired. Individual circumstances can be really hard to capture just looking at a single household income or a single person's income, especially in New York City, where the cost of living is so high, particularly for people who have a dependent or multiple dependents, and that those are the people who really need, even if their income might increase beyond $200,000, whether it's temporarily or permanently going forward, I do think those people still deserve to have the stability of living in a rent-regulated apartment. I'm a Marxist, and I'm not ashamed of that. At the same time, I think that on the other hand, there is increasing support for democratic socialism, I think, in society, in the US. And instead of just refusing to engage with it, it would be wise for not only the real estate industry, but anyone who cares about affecting policy and social change to seriously engage with it, even if they don't agree with it or identify with it. When someone says $15,000 is not enough for me to take from tenants in order to complete these repairs, the implication, what that position implies is that tenants should bear the full responsibility. And so if the full responsibility exceeds $15,000, then it's not enough, right? And I fundamentally believe that it's not right to both collect rent from tenants every month at a competitive rate, and with increases granted by the way that I believe we should treat land and value land, and my beliefs about us, that as a society we have a collective responsibility, and also as human beings deserve to have equal access to the land, that it doesn't, that it doesn't truly belong to us, even if we have the monetary resources to purchase it, and to put it really bluntly, to take it away from someone else, or from the collective, if it isn't owned by someone else or wasn't lost by someone else. Generally, I don't have a problem meeting with anyone who's opposed to my political stances. I think it's healthy and really important in the legislative process that I have multiple informed perspectives. The only reason that I wouldn't meet with someone is if we just have absolutely no common ground as human beings, and that's just not the case. Which is to say, that is not the case for anyone I know of in the real estate industry, for Jay Martin, for Chip. Unless someone is like literally a Nazi, I'm willing to meet with them. Yeah.